Hello there, my name is Igor, and I wanted to talk with you today about the very important topic about Magento 2. If you wanted to work with Magento 2 and have a good level, you need to understand very important particular things about the Magento 2. And right now I wanted to show you how to work with Magento 2. First of all, you need to have a MAMP. So it's application. And about MEMP, you can start the server, you can start Apache server, MySQL server, and after this, you have this page where you have websites. I already installed Magento 2 here, and I have a database where it's all installed, and we have here the website, and after this, you can create your own Magento 2 website, and you can have your own store with Magento 2. Magento 2 right now very important because in different countries right now all people want to have this kind of website because Magento 2 is platform where working very good, very fast, and you can make it really particularly good. So for my opinion right now, the Magento 2 is the most important platform to create the shop and web shop, and because it's working fast, it's good, working good, and it's particularly for example, if 100,000 people comes to your store, they will not have any problem to see your store. And for very big store, it's important to use Magento 2. If you have a small shop, you can use, for example, WordPress, OpenCart, or other any platform CMS system for you, but particularly, for my opinion, Magento 2 is the most important. When you know that Magento 2 is important, you need to know the structure of Magento 2. So first of all, I wanted to talk about app. This is very important because we have here HTXS, we have here different function PHP, and also we not only have this, but we also have another environment. We have config PHP where it showed all kind of, for example, this etc we have config PHP. Config PHP we can see the models we have. The models all working. If they are working, we have the one. If we have the zero, so this kind of model doesn't work. So if we have one, the model is working. This config PHP file working with vendor and Magento. In here we have all kind the model, and you see the model brain tree. We have the model backend, we have model authorization, accept.js. So we can see the registration PHP file, and we can see the name of the model. And we also can see config PHP that the model name is here, and this kind of model is working. So you need to keep in your mind that all models what we have in Magento 2, they are stored in a vendor and vendor Magento. So it's basically all models would working. Important things to know about the model. The model working with the database. So they are particularly when they are working, they are store all information in your database, and you can see all kind of things what happen in here. So it's important to understand and notice one things. When you created your own model, and your own model will create it here app code, you can create it its different way, and you have also registration PHP where you registered your own model, and it will show it up in this config PHP file. So you need to know in your mind that model is particularly working with database and change some information in database, but you're not working with admin panel. But in our admin panel, of course, you can choose something. You need to create other files, but the most important things you need to know that config PHP were created the models in code, and you need to keep in mind the vendor and Magento folder. to your needs. Other files, for example, we have env.php. This file it will creating after installation of Magento 2. Before you don't have it, but when you will install it, you have this kind of file. And this kind, you have the information about your database. And it's even the naming DB, it means database. And here it stores all your information, the password, username, database name, and even you can change it in any other database. So it's also important to know and important to remember. So it has here config PHP and PHP is important to remember and to know them. Second important things I say about code, here you install and created your models. Other things what I wanted to talk about also is about other pub. So we have in pub, it's where all models are stored, and it's like constructing, and we have some information in a particular time. So for example, what you see in a website, it stores here, but it's working in your team. So when you create your own team, and also you create your own team in design, front end, and you can create it, it's Magento 2 or in other name. You can name your own theme like you want. For example, if you wanted to name it, for example, so I want to, maybe I will create other themes. For example, I wanted to create it, the name of the theme is test. After this, I created other directory test, and after this I store different file here and I create my own team. Maybe I will in the future I will show you the name of the team and the name of how it should be in the future. But right now I want only to concentrate you that it is in a front end design. Front end, you have your own theme, and after this you store their information what change in the page, and in all this information like goes to pop, and it goes to static front end Magenta Luma. And right now, because I have the Luma team, and you see all this information is stored. So it's also very important to remember. You see, the Magenta is the name of the theme, like here. So it's an empty folder, but all information from all these different models, vendor models, like are right before the Magentas, and you even can see here Luma. You see temp front-end Luma. So all this information you can see here is going up in the pub. It's going up here. So in the pub static front-end Magenta Luma, because I choose the Luma. If I will choose the blank Tema, so it will be here other name blank also as well. So and also you can see we talk about the vendor has a Magenta folder, but we can see here is different naming Magenta Advanced Checkout. So when you're working with Magenta, you need to remember that if you wanted to change any the module functionality, you need to pick up in your team. So you see the front-end Luma is working this way. They have, for example, Magenta customer, this registration PHP. In this registration PHP, you can see the model name for example, it will be here Magenta customer, for example, and you want to change in your team, so you name it. It's Magenta customer. You have the different layouts, web, and you change in your own team. So you need also to remember these kind of things. So don't forget about it when you are working with the team. So it's very important to remember. So with these things, you can build your own team and to handle all kind of things. So basically, I wanted to remind you and other things very important that if you, when you're working with model, for example, Magenta. One second, Magenta. Here is the name of the models. You should to remember that you need to look in register PHP. You need to take it this naming, and you need to create it the name, the same name here, and replace the information, the same information with the information you wanted to change. For example, there have some kind of information. For example, view admin HTML layout, and you need to change the name of this, or you wanted to rewrite XML files. You need to go to your team, create this kind of folders, go take this file there, and rewrite it. So it's very important to notice, and it's very remembered to know. So don't forget about these things. And I think some way I show it to you how it's working, and also you need to remember to know that Magenta have the different kind of files. They have PHP files, so it's storing some classes, some PHP functionality. So it's very important to remember when you are working with Magenta 2. Also, they have the file PHTML, and also it's also very important to remember because PHTML files you're also writing some logics and HTML. So it's mixing with PHP functionality, and also it's mixed with the functionality of HTML and PHP. So it's like mixing. XML files is very important because XML files, it's layout. So how it's in page, you see the page structure, the page context, it's all about layouts. So XML files is very important, and you need to rewrite them in your team. Next kind of files you have HTML, and often in HTML they use a Knockout.js library. So you need also remember this. Second things I wanted to say that Magenta 2 use less per processor. So when you pre-process the information or your styles, you use less. And also remember to know that they are use grunt. So when you push the grunt and automatically it's reload, you have your style on the page. So it's very important to know and to remember when you're working with Magenta 2. So basically, if you want to be a good specialized when you're working with Magenta 2, you need to know very important things. You need to know PHP, you need to know JavaScript, you need to know less, how to work with less. Also, you need to understand how working grunt, how to work. You need to understand a little bit how to work, how to use Composer, and also very important to remember that you need to work a lot with Magenta, and you need to remember and understand a lot of things. With you was Igor Kovalenka. I hope that I explained it to you how works Magenta 2 and what the most important folders to look at when you're working with Magenta 2. Of course, I cannot explain all things in one video, but I hope this video will help you in